everyone, welcome to another video. In this video I'm gonna be trying out some new makeup for spring. I actually got the Ethereal Blooms palette from Couture. I told you that I wasn't gonna buy this one, but in the end I was weak and I caved. I just was too curious and I thought maybe it isn't as similar to other things that I have in my collection. So this is what we're going to be trying out today. And I also got one of the MAC Extra Dimension blushes from the Black Cherry collection. I told you in my Will I Buy that I was really interested in trying something from this collection, so I picked one of the blushes up. So that's what we're going to be doing in this video. I'm really excited. Let's get right into it. So let's start with the Ethereal Blooms palette. This is a new eyeshadow palette for spring by Couture. I've never tried this brand, but I was really interested in this palette when I saw their promo shots. So this is the box it comes in. It looks really cute. I hope you can kind of see, but it has a really fun design on it with some angels on there. It looks really cute, and we have some like mint green combined with some pink. I think this box looks really nice. And then the actual palette looks like this. We have a mint green that kind of goes to a peach nude. And then on the front it says Ethereal Blooms. I have to say, this isn't my favorite packaging, but I also don't really mind it. It's like, I like the colors, but the font isn't really what I would have chosen. But I guess it kind of goes with the brand. I don't really mind it. It's not my favorite. The plastic does feel quite sturdy, but of course what's most important to me is what's inside. So inside we have 8 pastel shades. We have some lilacs, some mint shades, some more warmer tones, and this a little bit darker pink in the corner. I thought this color story just looked really cute. When I first saw this one, I wasn't sure if it was gonna be too similar to the Ice Cream Dream palette. So I will compare this one to the Ice Cream Dream palette by Glamlite in a little bit to see if you need both of these. Now this palette also comes with this little card. I guess this is the owner of the brand. I really don't know anything about Couture. I never tried anything from them, was never really interested in them, but they still convinced me to buy this palette. So I don't really know. I guess this is the owner, and this card says, "Flourish this season with Ethereal Bloom. This limited edition collection of dreamy pastels and glittering hues is sure to make your spring dreams come true." So in this collection there's also kind of like this glittery loose topper, but that one was like $25, so it was almost as expensive as the palette, and the palette was just what I was most interested in, so I decided not to pick that one up. So I actually wanted to do some live swatches because we only have 8 shades. I thought it would be easiest to quickly swatch them live for you guys, and then I will compare it. So let me just prepare my arm and then let's get into the swatches. The first shade is kind of like this cool toned nude. It feels really soft. I think this is gonna be quite a soft shade on the eye. In a swatch it looks kind of rosy. So I think you could do kind of like a soft rosy look with this one. Looks like a pretty shade. Then the next shade is Flourish, and this is kind of like a really warm toned coral. So let's swatch that one over there. Looks like a pretty shade, also kind of rosy. There's some rosiness to it. I hope everything's gonna fit on my arm with how I'm swatching this right now. It might not. So next up we have the shade Poppy, and this is kind of like a cool toned shimmer, a cool toned pink shimmer. I don't know, I think there might be some duochrome to it. Maybe it has a little bit of a gold flip. So let's swatch that one over here. It's always a bit of a challenge to swatch live, but I still wanted to do it with this palette. So it's kind of like this cool toned pink shimmery shade. Once again it looks quite soft in the swatch, but you can definitely see there's some dimension and some texture to that shadow. So the next shade is called Goddess, and this is kind of like a bright cool toned hot pink. I don't know how I would exactly describe this, but wow, that is a swatch. That is a very bright color and a beautiful color, I have to say. It's like a hot pink with a bit of a purpley undertone. I think this is one of the shades that actually made me want to buy this palette, and it doesn't disappoint in a swatch. I think I'm gonna be trying this one on my eye today as well. It looks really good. Next up we have the shade Petal, and this is kind of like a pastel lilac, and it definitely has cool undertones. It doesn't have a lot of pink in there. I really love lilacs, and this is one of the shades that also really made me want to buy the palette. I thought that this one and this one together would look really nice in a look. These pastel shades are definitely a bit softer than that bright shade over here. You can definitely see a difference. I'm really curious how that will look on the eye. Next up we have the shade Glorious, and this is a shimmery lilac. It's kind of like the same shade, but then it's a shimmer. And I feel like this has kind of like a duochrome to it as well. Maybe it has like a taupe to a lilac flip. So let's swatch that one over here. So it's kind of like a nudie lilac shade almost. I don't feel like my swatches show them off the very best, but I can kind of see the shift in there. It's kind of like a warm taupe to a lilac. I'm really curious to see this one on the eye. Then we have two shades left. One is the mint green called Angelic. I feel like it's a little bit darker than your average mint green. Swatch that over here. That one has nice pigment to it. I like how that looks. And then the last shade is called Divinity. And this is kind of like a more blue mint shimmer. So it's not the exact same shade as that matte one. It's a little bit more blue, but still mint. So at first glance, I think this pink shade and this mint are really like stealing the show. I'm really curious to see these shimmers on the eyes. Let's first get into some close-ups of these swatches, and then I will quickly compare this palette to the Ice Cream Dream. So I just grabbed my Ice Cream Dream palette by Glamlite. This is the palette that I was talking about in the Will I Buy It video that might be similar enough to not need this palette. So at first I thought they were really similar, but then I looked at them closer and I thought maybe they are not that similar. So let me see if I can hold this up next to each other. So I actually feel like there are not direct dupes in these palettes. Like the lilacs are a little bit different in tone, the mints are different in tone, and the warm tones are also a bit different. And the pink in the Ethereal Blooms palette is also not a shade that you will directly find in the Ice Cream Dream palette. Maybe the shade Angelic and the shade Mint Chocolate are a bit similar. Let me just swatch them both. This darker one is Angelic, and this lighter one is Mint Chocolate from the Ice Cream Dream palette. I think they are similar enough. You don't really need both, but they are not exactly the same. This one in the Ethereal Blooms palette is definitely a little bit darker. Then I think I'm gonna swatch the shade Flourish from the Ethereal Blooms palette and the shade Orange Cream from the Ice Cream Dream palette. This one is Flourish and this one is Orange Cream from the Ice Cream Dream palette. They are definitely not the same. The one from the Ethereal Blooms palette definitely has more pink in it and is more coral. And this Orange Cream shade is definitely more orange. Then the shade Goddess might look similar to the shade Raspberry. And it also might look similar to the shade Black Cherry. So this is the shade Goddess, this is the shade Raspberry, and this is the shade Black Cherry. I feel like this shade is a lot brighter than the other ones. This one is a lot darker and this one is lighter and a bit softer. So there is definitely a difference between these shades. So for the last comparison, let's swatch Poppy, so that cool toned pink shimmer in the Ethereal Blooms palette, and let's swatch Rainbow Sherbet from the Ice Cream Dream palette and the shade Strawberry. So this is the shade from the Ethereal Blooms palette. This is Poppy, this one is Rainbow Sherbet, and this one is Strawberry. I feel like none of these are really similar. This one is a lot lighter than the other shades from the Ice Cream Dream palette. So these are definitely not dupes, but they are in kind of like the same tone, same color family. So I think the conclusion here is that they are not like exactly the same. You don't really have perfect dupes in these palettes, but they are pastels. Some of them kind of have the same vibes. Of course, you have a lot of colors in the Glamlite Ice Cream Dream palette. So in the end, I think you could do similar looks And especially if you're not that into pastels, you don't need both of these. So it kind of depends on you. Do you feel like it's worth it to you to have another pastel palette that has some shades that are kind of similar, but also it might give you just a slightly different look? So I feel like you don't really need both, especially if you don't do a lot of pastel looks. You're going to be fine just having one of these. What I do really like about the Ethereal Blooms palette is that it's really like small, compact. You just have a few shades. It's really easy to store. It's just a really convenient little palette. But of course, in comparison, the Ice Cream Dream palette is more affordable. So it's kind of like your personal preference. They are not direct dupes, but they are quite similar. Now let's get into the look. I can't wait to apply some eyeshadow. So here we are. I brought you a little bit closer. The sun starts to shine, so it's really like sunny and bright behind me. I'm kind of hoping that's going away in a sec because it's a little bit much sometimes. So let's apply some eye primer. I think I applied a little bit too much primer here. So I actually think this look is gonna be quite simple. I don't really want to use all these shades in one look. I personally don't always love it when there are so many different shades in a look. And I just want to do like a bit of a pretty simple look with this. Just try out a few shades, and of course later on I will review it fully. This is just a first impression. So I think I'm gonna start out with the shade Petal over here, so the light lilac matte. And I'm just gonna take a crease brush and start working that into the crease. And I think I'm just gonna start patting that down just to get as much pigment from this as possible, because sometimes pastels don't show up as well. But this is looking quite good already. This is looking quite pigmented. So I'm just first gonna pat that down before I'm gonna blend it out. Just building that up a little bit. But later on I'm also gonna be using that bright pink shade. Doing the same over here. I don't feel like it's sticking as well over there. I don't know why. Oh, here it goes. I like this shade. I feel like on the eye it looks a little bit more pinky than it does in the pan. But of course it's kind of mixing with my skin tone. Next up I'm gonna go into the shade called Goddess. This bright pink over here. And I'm gonna deepen up the outer corner with that one. I'm just gonna take a little bit because I don't know how bright this is gonna be right from the start. I like this shade and I like this combination with the lilac. It's really pigmented. Trying to focus that a bit on the outer corner. This one I don't feel like I really have to pat down to get the pigment because it's already so pigmented. And I'm just taking a little bit. A lot less than I took of that lilac shade. That is bright. That is a really bright shade. This I wouldn't call pastel. So I'm just gonna take a clean brush and kind of blend that out a bit. Because I feel if I would go on with the brush with eyeshadow on it, then I would just add more color because it's so pigmented. So I'm blending the edges. I'm just taking that brush that had the eyeshadow on it and just placing it in the crease. So I'm not really blowing that out, just focusing this on the crease. It still has pigment on it. I didn't dip in again. I think I'm just gonna take a brush with a little bit of that Petal shade and kind of adding a bit more of that over here. Kind of bringing that shade back, because I do want you to be able to see this. So I think that is looking quite nice. You can definitely see that lilac in the inner part. Now for the lid I'm just gonna go in with this shade called Glorious. So the shimmery lilac. And I'm really curious how this will look on the eye. I'm just gonna apply it with my finger. There's definitely some kind of nude quality to this. Like the base is kind of like a taupe shade and then you have that lilac shift. I also feel like it kind of has a bit of a see-through quality to it, but I'm not entirely sure. It could also be because of that duochrome. But you do have kind of like a slight shimmery effect in this eyeshadow. It's not like the most textured eyeshadow, but it's also not like perfectly smooth and metallic. I feel like it's kind of in between. For this video to try it out, I'm just using it dry, but later on I think I might try this with a glitter glue. I think that might also work well. I think maybe then the duochrome in this eyeshadow would appear even stronger. It does look like quite a nice shimmer, but I'm not like entirely sure yet. So let's apply a little bit more of that pink to the outer part to kind of mesh everything together. I really like this pink shade. This one really works well. It's a little bit powdery in the pan though. It does have some kick up in the palette. But I don't really see fallout on my face. So that's the most important thing. Now let's apply some eyeshadow to the lower lash line. I'm just gonna go in with that petal shade again. And gonna start applying this. I don't know if it's really gonna stick because I don't have any primer there. Gonna do my best. Yeah, I guess it shows up a little bit, but it doesn't work as well as on the primer on the top. Now I'm gonna go into the shade called Goddess and applying that to the lower lash line as well. Now I'm gonna take a pencil brush and I'm gonna take the shade called Poppy over here and I'm gonna apply that to the lower lash line. I'm gonna see if it kind of wants to stick over there. I think that works quite well with this brush. You can definitely see the shimmer here. Yes, I think it definitely applies well with this pencil brush. Yes, I like how that is looking. So I think that is gonna be everything for this palette. I'm just gonna apply the rest of my face makeup except my blush because we're gonna be trying the Black Cherry blush from MAC. And I also got this little lip gloss sample from Artist Couture. I also wanted to try this one. So I'm just gonna apply some makeup, fix my eyeshadow, clean up my eyeshadow off camera, and then I will be right back. So this is the eyeshadow with mascara. I also applied some bronzer. I didn't do my eyebrows yet because when I apply blush, I like to also apply a little bit on my forehead and then I always mess up my brows. So I did everything I could do so far. And I just realized I forgot to put on lip liner. Let me do that real quickly. I'm just gonna take this Nice and Spicy Pro Longwear lip pencil from MAC. This is really nice nude shade. This lip liner looks a bit orange in comparison with this really cool toned pink eye. But I think it's gonna go well with the lip gloss, so we're just gonna go with it. So I just looked at the eyeshadow in different lighting for a second. And there I could definitely see like the dimension and the shimmer in there. But I think it would look even better with some glitter glue. So I'm probably gonna try that somewhere this week to see if it even shows up better. But I think it's quite a cute shimmer. So I just wanted to mention that. Sometimes I just have to look in a little bit of different lighting than these soft boxes to really see what a shimmer is like. Now let's move on to the blush. So I bought a blush from the MAC Black Cherry collection. This is the shade Room to Bloom. So this is the packaging. It's really cute. It is quite plasticky. It isn't like the most luxurious feeling ever, but I do think that this kind of like print on the front, it looks quite cute. I don't mind it. I think it is quite nice packaging. They could have maybe made it a little bit more like weighty, but I don't really mind it. So this is the shade that I got. It's kind of like a mauvey tone, but it has some warmth in it as well. It's a bit softer than the really bright coral that was also in this collection. I'm not really sure, but I believe I heard that this one isn't available everywhere. So if you're watching this video and this isn't available to you, I'm really sorry about that. But this was available in the Netherlands at least. I feel like in most posts of American YouTubers, Instagrammers, I only saw the 3 other colors. This was the color that spoke to me the most. I felt like the other ones were just a little bit too light or a little bit too bright or a little bit too dark. So that's why I only picked up one. Now let's apply this one. Or maybe I should swatch it first to just see the color. I feel like it's quite softly pigmented and there's definitely no shimmer in there. It's just shiny. You can see over here it is shiny, but it doesn't have any chunky glitter at all, which I appreciate. I don't always love glitter or shimmer in cheek products. And it looks like it isn't too pigmented. Like it looks like it's quite softly pigmented. I'm just gonna take my blush brush by Kaleidos and I'm just gonna take a little bit and start applying this to the cheek. I didn't apply any highlight because I really wanted to see what the shine of this blush would look like. Maybe I don't really need highlight after using this. You can definitely build this one up. It isn't like you apply it and then there's a stripe on your face because it's too pigmented. So this is really nice for more fair skin tones. But I wouldn't go for this one if you are a little bit deeper. So I'm gonna apply it to the other side. It's kind of like a neutral shade. I think this would go with a lot of different looks because it's not overly warm or overly cool. Just gonna apply a little bit to my forehead with just what's left on my brush. Just gonna build it up a bit. It does have this kind of like natural soft sheen without really being shimmery. I think this is a really nice formula for my preferences at least. Not too pigmented, not too shimmery. Quite easy to apply. Yes, I quite like how this is looking. It's like, it's not too much, but it does give me the effect that I want. You can definitely see that natural sheen there. Now let's move on to the lip gloss. The lip gloss is called Le Freak. And it's kind of like this bronzy gold shimmery lip gloss. I don't know if it's like the best choice with this eye look, but I'm just gonna try it because I'm curious. I'm just curious to see what this will be like. So it's a shimmery lip gloss, but it doesn't look too chunky, I feel like. It feels quite comfortable. I didn't apply too much, but it doesn't feel really sticky, but also not like it's gonna disappear from my lips right away. I quite like this feeling. It makes me think of this lip gloss formula by L'Oreal that I used to have, that I used to really like. It's kind of like similar to that. Yes, I quite like this one. I'm pleasantly surprised. So let me just fix my brows real quickly and then I will come back and share my first impression thoughts. So this is the finished look. I actually think it turned out really well. I think the eyeshadow is really cute. I really love the colors and the shimmer on the lid. I think the blush looks really nice. I didn't put on any highlighter. I just wanted to show off the sheen that the blush has. And the lip gloss, it was free. I just got it as like an extra thingy in the order and I think it looks quite nice. It isn't like too chunky. It feels quite hydrating and comfortable and it looks quite juicy on the lips. So let's go through everything that I've tried in this video. First up, this eyeshadow palette, the Ethereal Blooms palette. I really enjoyed the eyeshadows that I used, really enjoyed this look. I think especially this bright pink shade is really pigmented and I really love the tone of this one. It's just a little bit different. It's not something that you're gonna find very easily. And I also thought that this lilac-y matte worked very well. I like the shimmer. It's not like soft and creamy. It's a little bit more on the dry side, but if you look at it in the right lighting, you can definitely see the shimmers in there. So you do have some texture and dimension in these shimmers, but of course, as I told you, I want to try them out a little bit more with like a glitter glue or maybe like wetting them. I just want to see if that would make a difference. I think with this palette it's really up to you to decide if you need this one. I don't think you need that many pastel palettes, but this one is really like small, handy, convenient. You just have a few shades, so it's nice to kind of add to your collection if you don't use a lot of pastels but you just want a few shades to kind of play with. So if you have other pastel palettes, I wouldn't say that you definitely need this. It kind of depends if these tones are really like what you're looking for. I personally just felt like these tones were just different enough, so I quite enjoyed this palette. My first impression is quite positive. I quite like the shades that I used. I'm gonna do some more looks to really decide what I think. So it kind of depends if you're into pastels and if you already have some pastel palettes in your collection. I personally really love pastels, so that's why I grabbed this one. But I feel like if you already have the Glamlite Ice Cream Dream and you don't wear a lot of pastels, then maybe skip this one. So the blush in Room to Bloom, or yeah, Room to Bloom. I quite enjoy this one. It looks really nice on the skin. It has this very nice glow without being glittery. I like the tone of this one. I think people with a more warm undertone but also people with a more cool undertone would get away with this one because it's kind of like a neutrally shaded. It's not overly warm or overly cool, and I feel like it would go with a lot of looks. Also because it's not that glittery, and I could definitely see myself using this one a lot more. I'm quite happy that I got this one. Then the gloss that I tried in the shade Le Freak. Of course I have to wear it for a little bit longer to really see how it wears, how I feel about it, but I quite like the effect so far and how it feels on the lips. So that was everything for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Like this video if you liked it and don't forget to subscribe. And then I will see you in my next video. Bye bye!